Welcome back to my channel Kishore Sir Ki Pathshala. Today we'll be doing chapter number 6 Tissues on 9 Cbse. Before that, let's understand a small simple organism that is amoeba. We know that it is a single celled organism which carries out all its movements, intake of food, exchange of gases and excretion, right, by its simple cell. So all the functions are carried out by this unicellular organism. But what we see in a multicellular organism, like our human body, we have got a million of cells are there. Most of these cells are specialized to carry out a specific functions, like kidney cells are there, which carries out the function of excretion. Cells on our skin carries out the function of protection. Cells in our brain, which carries out the passage of messages. Each specialized function is taken up by a different group of cells. Since these cells carries out only a particular functions, they do it very efficiently. Because they are doing a particular function, the efficiency increases. To give an example, police in our country, they take care of law and order situation. Soldiers at the border, they take care of the enemies. So they have got a specialized function. There's the reason their efficiency increases. So in human beings, muscle cells contract and relax to cause a movement. Nerve cells carry messages. Blood flows to transport oxygen. In plants, you will see that vascular tissue conduct food and water from one part of the plant to other part. So multicellular organisms show division of labor. Division of labor means the functions are different. So cells are having different functions. Cells specializing in one functions are often grouped together in the body, right? So they are grouped together in the body. What this means? This means at a particular function is carried out by a cluster of cells. A cluster of cells will carry a particular function. At a definite place they will carry in the body. So these cluster of cells are called as tissues. Is arranged and designed so as to give the highest possible efficiency of the function. Right, the best possible functions can be derived from this cluster of cells. A group of cells that are similar in structure and or work together to achieve a particular function forms a tissue. So this is a definition of a tissue. So we can have an example of blood, phloem, muscles are the few examples of tissue. Here you will see cells are there. So cluster of cells make a tissue. So tissues make the organ coming together makes a organ system, right? Let's see a difference between a plant and animal tissue. So you see that plants are how they are stationary or they are fixed. They don't move. So there is no movement in plants. Since they have to be upright, what they require? They require a large quantity of supportive tissues to support them. The supportive tissues are generally, they are dead cells. Okay. The growth in plants is limited to a certain region. So the growth is limited to a certain region, only the growth is limited. So these are some tissues in plants that divide throughout their lives. So there are tissues which keep on dividing throughout their life. Where are they localized? In certain regions, these are only there. Based on the dividing capacity of the tissues, various plants can be classified as growing and permanent tissues. Okay, so this plant tissues can be classified as growing and permanent tissues. Let's check what are the things happens in animal tissues. So animals, we know that they move around in search of food, mates and shelter. They consume much more energy as compared to plants. Why? Because of all these functions they carry, the requirement of energy is much more. Most of the tissues they contains are living. Cell growth in animals is more uniform. So there is no such demarcation of dividing and non-dividing regions in animals like what we have seen in plants. Okay, only a few regions are only growing. So the tissues present in few regions are only growing. So that is not the case in animal tissues. Now let's see what are these plant tissues all about. Let's study regarding them. So before that, we need to do one activity. What is the activity? We need to take two glass jars, that is jar A and jar B, and fill them with water. Now we need to take two onion bulbs and place one on each jar. We need to observe the growth in both the bulbs for a few days. Measure the length of the roots for day 1, 2 and 3 respectively. Then on the day 4, what you do, you cut the root tips of the onion bulbs in jar B. So cut this roots by 1 centimeter. After this, observe the growth of the roots in both the jars and measure their lengths for next 5 days. Record the readings. Before we see what readings, what observation we got, let us talk about the meristematic tissues and try to answer the questions in the activity. The growth of plants occurs only in a certain specific regions the growth is there, right? So this is because the dividing tissues which are known as meristematic tissues. So what we have done there, we have cut down the roots by 1 centimeter in jar B onion bulb. So we have cut down the meristematic tissues, right? So the growth we have stopped there. So these are located only at these points. Depending on the region where they are present, meristematic tissues are classified as. They are classified as apical, lateral and intercalary. So new cells produced by meristem are initially like those of meristem itself. So they are alike. But as they grow and mature, their characteristic or properties slowly change and they become differentiated as component of other tissues. Means as they grow, what will happen? Their functions will change and but naturally their properties changes. So meristematic tissues are a group of cells in plants that have the ability to divide. So they have the ability to divide and form new cells. So new cells are formed, right? Which contribute to the plant growth and development. Here you will see apical meristem, intercalary is there and lateral meristem is there. So apical meristem is present at the growing tip of stems and roots. Where they are present? At the tips of stems and roots. What it does? It increases the length of the stem and roots. Lateral meristem increases the width of the stem or roots. Intercalary meristem is seen in some plants at the nodes. Okay, here they are formed and the functions are according to the place where they are situated. So let's talk about the cells of the meristematic tissue. Cells of the meristematic tissues are very active. They are active. They have dense cytoplasm is present in them, right? The thin cellulose wall is there and a prominent nuclei will be seen. A prominent nuclei is seen. Now they lack vacuoles. They lack vacuoles. Why they lack vacuoles? Because they are young, actively dividing, okay, and they don't store food. They don't store food and therefore the waste material generated is also very less. So the vacuoles are not there. Students, I am sure you have understood today's topic of tissues. We have discussed the difference between plant tissue and animal tissue. We'll be continuing this in the next section. Do like, subscribe my channel Kishore Sir Ki Pathshala.